Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
What a goddamn week we got ahead of us here.
It's a banner week, everybody. The docket is overfilled. So we're going to get right into it. Oh, boy. First off, Bang On or Bullshit is back, and I have a lovely intro, which I'm very excited to introduce.
I've already heard it. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be.
Yes. So let's get right into it. Stories this week. Newly released text messages from Mark Meadows, former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, are bonkers. That's not a CNN headline. That's mine. So CNN got somewhere in the realm of like 2,500 text messages from, or excuse me, 2,319 text messages to be exact, from former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, between him and an array of people that are all very interesting.
Now these were the messages that he voluntarily turned over to the January 6th committee, and then decided after turning these over, he's like, actually, I don't want to cooperate anymore. And you guys are going to have to hold me in contempt. And it's pretty astonishing because the question that I asked immediately is if he was willing to voluntarily give up these messages,
right?
Boy, you can only imagine what he's holding back.
And like the thing is, he didn't look through all 2,300 of these, right?
No.
Right?
No.
Like he knew exactly which messages were the real bad ones, and those are the ones he was like, no. And then he was like, everything else, right? Like, and it was like, oh shit, I forgot I said that. He's probably finding out in real time like we are.
Someone pointed out that there's an 11-day gap between December 9th and December 20th where there's no texts in this like grouping that he submitted, which is when all the fuckery was going on with all the court cases that they were doing to try to get certain states tossed out. Yeah,
look, these text messages range from him talking to people like Sean Hannity, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ivanka Trump, I'm sure Ginny Thomas, like a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But like one of the things that is incredibly interesting about this is this, while really insightful into the mindset of these guys, is too much information. It's a data dump, right? And it's too much information all at once. This kind of stuff, I know CNN got it all, but they should have trickled this stuff out like hit after hit after hit over the course of a number of weeks. Well, it's too much information, and it's also getting swept up with the recorded phone calls from I think they're Washington Post New York Times writers who are coming out with their book that came out yesterday, I believe. That's all, like, it's all being kind of swept up together.
And to your point, like the issue is that the main focus from this text dump was like a batshit crazy message, but also like kind of less important in the grand scheme of things. Like everyone zeroed in on the Marjorie Taylor Greene text message where she asks Meadows to have Trump call for martial law. Marshall, of course, spelled Marshall, like the name Marshall, and not the term Marshall.
She's a huge fan of Tekken.
Huge Tekken fan. And everyone pointed to that and be like, "Look, it is a big deal because she just testified that she doesn't remember ever." Asking the president to commit martial law in that hearing that she was just in. But there's so much other stuff in here that is far more inflammatory, that's far more damning. Straight up, like on election day, he's communicating with Sean Hannity.
Yeah.
To encourage people in swing states to make sure, conservatives to get out and vote. Like he's literally working hand in hand with the media to do that, which, as we always say, can you imagine,
right. Like you're never going to get a text message like between Joe Biden and Rachel Maddow, like, hey,
or even like Ron Klain, like just to use, just to compare apples and apples. Like you're not going to see like a text from Ron Klain to Rachel Maddow, like, hey, make sure you're really encouraging people to go out and vote in these swing states, these Democrats.
And then they would respond, yes, sir. Which really quite literally feels like you are in the chain of command at the White House.
Well, I mean, like,
kind of.
Kennedy was famously the shadow shadow cabinet secretary, as they like to
That's
refer to him
crazy.
as, or
Dude.
shadow
That's
advisor.
crazy.
It's
Sean Hannity
it is
is
batshit
not
insane.
like Sean Hannity is not a brilliant political mind. Like he's just not, right? Like that's nuts. But yeah, I do think I think it's a little overload. This article goes on to say there are also texts with more than 40 current and former Republican members of Congress, including Ted Cruz, Jim Jordan, Mo Brooks, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, they dig in like pretty heavily. It's like, like I get it. CNN is like trying to put in like some interesting stuff, but a lot of it is just kind of fluff bullshit. The things that are real.
I'm just like there's a lot of funny shit in here too. Like before we get to the insane stuff, there's literally like a fucking multiple paragraphs from My Pillow guy Mike Lindell to Mark Meadows. Like Mike Lindell's that guy that fucking just text 20 times when one message would have done. Mark Meadows apparently, despite being the chief of staff, is Bernie Kerrick's like travel coordinator essentially. Like Bernie Kerik is texting him. Like, hey, like we're going from Michigan to Arizona. Can you get us a hotel and 2 vehicles to pick us up at the airport? Like, what? Like, what the fuck?
Dude, I'm the chief of staff. Why are you calling me?
Of the fucking president. Like, what are you doing, dude?
Like, can you help us? No, I can't. I'm busy. But look, obviously the martial law thing was a huge deal. But it's funny. Like the text messages, I actually only found kind of sort of interesting. But again, I actually find it important and interesting from the perspective that you had, which is what he didn't share, right? Mm-hmm. Like that is much more telling. The idea that in those text messages and in some of the calls that we'll talk about in a second, you can literally hear and read them workshopping the Antifa bullshit lie, right? This feels like an Antifa thing, like. And they just made it up. And they just were like, go out there to the media and say that shit. And that's
on
exactly
the 6th.
Yeah,
on the 6th, like Jason Miller is literally texting Meadows and Dan Scavino, who Dan Scavino was the communications director in the Trump White House. And, he's like, hey, call me crazy, but I've got 2 great ideas for tweets that POTUS could tweet out. Like, bad apples, likely Antifa, infiltrated today's peaceful protests. Like, that right there, like all that shit that you were feeding, and they ran away from the Antifa thing once they realized it was untenable. But like,
also when Trump came out and said he would pardon those people, like, wait, why? Why did you do that?
Yeah, but like I said, you knew it was horseshit, and you're just trying to fucking, work that shit in real time.
Yeah, it's wild to see this happening, like to see it. Like written down that these guys were doing it. Like that's nuts.
And not only that, so but you see the dichotomy. So like Jason Miller's like, hey, I've got this great plan. Meanwhile, you see who the actual idiots are, because like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert are texting Meadows saying, "Oh, we think Antifa did infiltrate these people." I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, they're true believers, right? Like that's the one thing you get is they're true believers. And Mark Meadows, incidentally, in a call that came out this week, Mark Meadows was he was talking about like when last week we talked about the call where Liz Cheney was like basically threw his ass under the bus and was like, yeah, here's a call between the two of us, like fuck this guy, right? And like threw it out there. He's like, well, I'm gonna talk to the president and have him resign. Or did we even talk about that last week, or was that this week? I don't even remember at this point. But that was like a big deal, and then you come to find out that there was another call where Meadows was talking to other Republicans. I believe Liz Cheney was one of them, saying, well, Twitter was able to shut down Trump's account because of all the shit he was saying.
No, it was McCarthy.
Oh yeah, Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
And he was like, why can't they shut down like these other Republicans in the House? They were advocating to shut down their own people on social media because they knew what they were saying was fucked up. That's crazy, dude. Like, these guys went on the news. They're like, oh, I don't know. I think all the rhetoric is okay. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're like, cut their access. Get them off the internet. Because they knew in their heart of hearts that it was bullshit. And the fact that we'll never get to drag these assholes to the Hill and have public hearings and force them with subpoenas to testify is bullshit. Like, we know what these guys actually believe because they wrote it down, right? They're recorded saying this shit, which, again, I need people to watch The Wire. You don't take notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy. Like, what are you doing?
Not only that, but like, if you're Kevin McCarthy, like the whole thing about the McCarthy stuff is that he vehemently, like, a reporter asked him, you know, and he vehemently denied it, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool. We've got tapes."
Disaster.
To paraphrase, you know, James Comey, Lordy, there's tapes. Like,
Yeah,
look at it.
Like, what are you doing?
If you know you're on tape saying that shit, like, you can't, like, you gotta equivocate, right?
Yeah,
like,
you gotta like obfuscate or something. You gotta do something.
Yeah. Like, you can't just be like, no, that's not what I'd never said.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, here's the tape. Well, that's not what I meant. You know, I think with McCarthy, a Fox News reporter, like, asked him, he's like, "Did you lie to a reporter?" And McCarthy's like, No. The reporter asked me, like, if I ever talked to the president and suggested that the president resign. That I never did. Like, I was talking to Liz Cheney and suggesting it, but I never talked to the president. And meanwhile, like, the reporter clearly, because again, it's on tape, clearly asked him, "Did you ever talk to any members of the party of Congress about the president resigning? Not did you tell Trump to resign?"
Yeah, that part also irrelevant.
Yeah.
What you talk to the other Congress people about is what you meant. That's what you really wanted to do. Whether you too much of a chicken shit to say it to Trump is a different conversation altogether. Like, look, the Republican Party has been talking shit about Trump behind his back the entire 4 years he was president. Like, to be like, "Well, I didn't say it to Trump." Yeah, because you're a coward. That's why you didn't say it to him. Not because some high moral standard that you have. To get the fuck out of here. This is bullshit.
Well, and again, it makes him look that much worse because 3 weeks later, he's, you know, in Mar-a-Lago groveling,
of course,
you know, to Trump.
Course.
You know,
I mean, you have to wonder what sort of dirt Trump has on this Republican Party.
I don't even know that it's dirt. He just holds the key. Or at least they perceive that he holds the key to power. Like, McConnell's the same way. Like obviously, like, I say what you will about McConnell. Like, I don't think McConnell has some secret, like, fucking, you know, compromise out there on him. He just doesn't seem like the type. He's just a fucking craven asshole.
Right. He's just a piece of shit. Like,
but even he was like, yeah, fuck this guy. Like they have McConnell, like, oh, like, you know, the fucking Democrats are going to take care of this asshole for us. Like, this is great.
Yep, they were all ready for it to happen.
Yeah, and then no one voted for impeachment because they're like, "Oh shit, like, we still kind of fucking need this guy."
Right, and I think they saw in the media that the outrage was waning.
Yeah,
and so they were just like, I think we can weather it, right? Like, which really, I mean, they did, right? But like, which really makes them about as craven as you can get. Is that you're just like sitting there waiting, like, democracy? We made it. Like, fuck it. Like, let's not worry about preserving it or like trying to do the right thing.
That's the whole MO, though. Like, that's what they're all about. They don't give a shit about the country. Like, they just care about being in power.
They quite literally don't give a fuck about the country.
You cannot make the argument that they are working in the interest of the company in the country at this point anymore, because you have to point to what interest. Like, they're so they can be in charge. Like, to what end? Like, just so they can collect money from special interests to make sure that they keep protecting them. Like, that's really all it is.
Right.
At the end of the day,
or just lining their pockets with insider trading and all this other shit. Like,
there's no ideological reason that they have to fight. Like, do you think they really believe so feverishly in fucking tax cuts and shit like that? They care as far as, you know, donors go.
Yep.
Trust me, if the rank and file of America donated heavily to the Republican Party, they'd care about tax cuts for people down on the economic scale.
Yeah,
a little
absolutely.
bit,
but they don't.
So,
they don't give two fucks. So I titled this next story because I think this might be one of the most intriguing stories of the week, and there is a lot going on. I titled this story, "We Don't Want to," but a little credit to Mike Pence. Like, I think you kind of have to. I think you a little bit. Mike Pence. This story that Jamie Raskin tells, who is member of the House Intelligence Committee, the House Committee investigating January 6th. He's also a Democrat from Maryland. Shout out to him. Boy, has he earned his job. But he talks about a report that he got about Vice President Mike Pence on January 6th.
Mhm.
And this is in the this upcoming book by Carol Leonnig and Philip Rucker called I Alone Can Fix It. According to the excerpt in the forthcoming book, which again, Raskin also saw the report on this, which is what they're writing about in the book. During January 6th, at one point, when Pence is down in this like unsecured parking garage underground, like a parking garage loading dock area, it's like him and his chief of staff and a couple of Secret Service people in his family, they are like breaking into the Capitol, right? And they got him down there in this like very unsecured thing. By the way, not to bury the lead here, they had to be down there because all of their access had been revoked inside the building. And no one is talking about how the fuck that happened. Who did that? Surely that's a very easy thing to find out whose account accessed the security system to revoke all of their cards.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Sure is curious. Definitely wouldn't be Democrats who were not in charge at the time. Just saying. So while they're on this like loading dock garage area, the Secret Service told Pence like, hey, let's get in the car and we're going to get the fuck out of here. Pence says, I'm not getting in that car. He tells that to Tim Geibels, his team's lead special agent. He says, I trust you, Tim, but you're not driving that car. If I get in that vehicle, you guys are going to take off. I'm not getting in that car. So there's two ways to read this.
Mm.
The first way that Raskin and other people are talking about it is that basically Pence didn't want to get in the car because his fear was that the Secret Service, his group of Secret Service agents, who definitely report up to Trump's group of Secret Service agents, they would have driven him off campus,
mm-hmm.
and he would not have been there to certify the votes, thus throwing it to the pro tem Chuck Grassley, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then things would have gone the way that they wanted because Chuck Grassley was all on board for this. Incidentally, Chuck Grassley on January 5th said that I guess I'll be presiding because Vice President Mike Pence will not be here tomorrow. That's what he said the day before. What the fuck, dude? How I read that is, yes, they would have probably driven him off campus. Also at the same time, maybe you never see Mike Pence again.
Like for his safety. We have to
No. I mean like, something happened. I don't know, dude.
Crazy.
I don't think that's that crazy. I don't think it's that crazy. Considering that during this time, you had people chanting "Hang Mike Pence." They had gallows being built, and at no point did the president call these guys off. He knew exactly what was going on. He gave no fucks if that guy got killed. He didn't care. Like, that's the thing in the story that is not being talked about enough. It's like, oh, hang Mike Pence, that's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. But the fact that the president wasn't doing everything he could to protect his VP is fucking nuts. So I'm not sure it is that crazy to be like, well, in the craziness, Mike Pence got shot. We don't know. Like, you put it above Trump? I don't. Not at all.
I don't put it above Trump, but
no.
Secret Service dudes are not slavishly, fucking in it for the president. Like not the regular grunts, maybe like the head of the teams and stuff like that. But
Joe Biden dismissed almost all of his Secret Service. You remember that report when he came in? Him and Kamala Harris, they dismissed almost all of their Secret Service people because they did not trust, because the issues they had inside the Secret Service, they did not, who were like slavishly loyal to Trump, they did not trust them around the Bidens and the Harris families. I'm not sure that I buy that that's not it. I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. I'm just saying I would not put it past them. I just wouldn't. Well, and that sounds like conspiratorial, and I don't want to sound like some fucking like QAnon psychopath. My people. But I don't think that those guys, like, given the evidence of the way that they behave, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be surprised.
I mean,
but they definitely, that option of driving him off campus to let Chuck Grassley do it, 100% is true. 100%.
Well, that I believe they wanted to accomplish. And Mike Pence also said, like, the visual of like a motorcade peeling ass out of the Capitol building in the middle of this fucking insurrection is definitely not optically, what you want to see, because then you're showing everyone like, oh yeah, this works, by the way. Like, if you want to just storm the fucking Capitol every time we're about to do something you don't like we will acquiesce to the mob's demands.
And look, and again, to Pence's, and this is why I'm giving Pence credit.
Yeah.
With all of the pressure that was coming down on him from the entire Republican Party, from the president and every other psycho that was trying to break into that shit, he steeled up that spine, man. Like, for the one time in his entire career, he did that.
Second time, Jay. You remember the stern look that he had looking over the demilitarized zone into North Korea, sitting in South Korea.
His bomber jacket.
You remember that pose? He's there. He's like, yeah, that's right. I'm fucking staring him down.
You better watch it, North Korea, or I'll come over there. Like, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. Like, no, I'm not. But you could imagine what it'd be like if I did. Okay. Holy shit. That's fucking funny. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Him just staring.
Dude, I guarantee you he has a fucking framed copy of that picture sitting in his house.
There's no way that mother has not touched herself to that image.
That's right. Gross. Number one.
Yes. Agreed.
But also probably true. Like, yeah, I can't dispute it.
Look. There's no way to know, so we're gonna err on the side of I'm right. She's done it. She's like, you've never been more perfect, Mike. But that story is fucking really disturbing. Oh yeah, it's super disturbing. Like, but you got to give Pence credit for that, man. Like, he would not, like, there was another story, and it's not mentioned here, but like one of Pence's guys, like Meadows talked about this. I thought it was really fascinating. Like, one of Pence's guys, like the day before or like January 5th or some shit like that, he said, and it's like written down, like it's in like a letter or some shit like that. He said, like, look, I don't trust you guys as far as like driving the vice president around, because I know if you drive him to fucking like Siberia or something so that he can't certify the votes. Like, he said that like days going into January 6th.
Yeah.
Like Pence's team knew like that was a possibility. Like, you don't write that shit unless you really think it. Like, that's crazy, man. Like, oh, lighthearted, but like, no, but for real, like, I think you guys would fucking do that. And you're like, or no, they said you would drive him to Guantanamo to keep him from certifying the votes. Yeah, they fucking would. So I give Mike Pence credit for that. And I think people should give him credit. I think you should be honest about it, because that took a lot of guts. It really did. Where I immediately undercut that is, why are you still defending this asshole?
Yeah, that's the problem, is that he's still willing to go out there and still like, oh, President Trump was one of the greatest presidents, and it was such an honor to serve, and like all this, like bro, like, come on,
dude, he was quite literally willing to throw you to the wolves. You and your family.
Have a little bit of fucking pride.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, this guy tried to get me killed and my family. Fuck this guy, dude. Where is your sense of humanity, like self-preservation? Like, self-respect.
But honestly, like that. But that's his political self-preservation kicking in, because Mike Pence probably still thinks that he has a future in high-ranking Republican politics. He probably thinks he could be president one day.
Delusional, dude. Delusional.
I mean, yes, 100%.
Delusional. Does he 100%. Do you think he thinks that he's going to be Trump's VP if Trump runs again? You think he thinks that?
I don't think he thinks that he be Trump's VP. I think he thinks he could run for president, like, by himself. Maybe not against Trump, but I think that he's like, oh, 2028, that's my year. No way, dude. No way. Dude, he does not realize that he's Dan Quayle. Like, he just doesn't understand the fact that he's fucking Dan Quayle.
Ironically. Dan Quayle helped him tremendously in these moments.
Yes.
But yeah, look, you got to give him a little bit of credit, man. Like, I think lesser men would not have done that. I think they would have just been like, all right, whatever, dude.
See, you say give him credit, and I say, why does he want credit for something he's supposed to do? Like,
all right, that's fair.
like, that's
Little Chris Rock
job.
there. Right.
Yeah,
no, he is. But let's also be honest. Like, the Republican Party hasn't done what they're supposed to do in decades.
I know.
So,
I know.
So I will give him as much as it hurts me to give him credit. I will give him a little bit of credit. But the thing that I am deeply, deeply offended by is the fact that he still defends this guy when you knew in your heart of hearts this guy was quite literally willing to let you get murdered. Yeah. Like, Trump would not have done anything if they had dragged that guy and put him on the fucking gallows that day. Again, he wouldn't have done anything. He would have been like, all right, whatever.
How many times we've seen that, like, you know, people talking shit on Trump and, you know, and then just genuflecting when push comes to shove. I
don't get it, man. I don't get it. Like,
it's because you have pride.
Yeah. Also, like, if I was Mike Pence and I made it out of January 6th safe, the first thing I would do to Trump, I would go on TV and I'd be like, this guy did it and this guy should be fucking arrested. Dude, you tried to kill my kids. That's it. Like, and look, if you're a Republican, you're like, Mike Pence is an asshole. Whatever. Dude, I'm just an asshole then. Like, I'm just an asshole. Like, it's my kids, yo. I'd be like, you're lucky I don't beat your ass the second I see you in Mar-a-Lago.
I'm about to say that. I thought you were going to go, the first thing I'd do is fucking walk up to Trump and punch him in his fucking face.
Well, no, he wouldn't be nearby. That's the second move. I'm sorry for what I said on TV. I was a little impulsive. Can I come see you in Mar-a-Lago? Fucking. Like, oh, yeah. No, I wasn't kidding. Fuck you, dude. Like, oh, but for real, man. Like, this guy tried to kill your family. Like, let alone saying, well, yeah, that's how politics is. This is infrastructure week. His fucking bullshit. But, dude, he tried to, like, he put your family in danger. You got no fucking pride? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, Come on, man. I'd be like, here's my O.J. Simpson if I did it book. Like, I'd be like, dude, we're writing that shit today. Like, get the fuck out of here, man.
And again, that's why we continue to be in the wildest timeline. The fact that they just continue to suck at that dude's fucking teat is amazing to me.
Wording. Fucking gross. Also, solid choice for show title. Sucking at Trump's teat.
Sucking at the Trump teat. Yep.
Fucking disgusting. Next up, speaking of disgusting, Elon Musk has officially put in his bid to buy Twitter. $44 billion later, the richest man alive is set to buy the most influential social media platform. Great.
Never thought I'd see the day where we could see someone spend $44 billion on impulse.
Yeah, buddy.
I don't know that we've ever really seen that before. I need you to understand that, like, so, like, you know, Dense Pixels listeners out there, well aware of the news that, you know, recently Microsoft entered an agreement to buy Activision Blizzard, one of the biggest video game companies on the planet.
Yes.
And this entire company, like one of the most influential game companies being bought by Microsoft, was like, they're paying nearly $70 billion for that. And people, like, were wagging their tongues at that happening. This is one guy buying Twitter. And Twitter's massively influential, don't get me wrong, but it's still one dude buying this company for 2/3 of what Microsoft is spending on the biggest third-party video game publisher on the planet.
Yeah, a whole ass company. Whole ass company. Yeah, look, I have many issues with this. Almost too many to go into. But before we do, I do think it is. I would like to go light before I go very dark on this. So shout out to one of my new favorite budding local comedians. This guy named Stavros Halkias. He has a bit about Elon Musk that I want to play because fuck Elon Musk. And this guy is awesome. So shout out to him. I'd love to have him on the show. I think he's great. He's a super smart kind of liberal comedian. But fuck Elon Musk. So here you go.
That guy sucks dick as well, by the way. It's so funny. He didn't do shit. He just bought. He didn't make the car. You know that, right? He just bought. He bought into the company. He just like his family had diamond, emerald money from like just whipping. He's from like the most racist country there is. You know what I mean? Like South Africans are just Danish people that like were like, America's not racist enough. We're gonna go. Why get slaves and bring them? Let's go straight to the source. That's what South Africa is. That's where he's from. His family just made a bunch of money off fucking emerald mines, and then he bought into other people's successful companies. And then I'll give him credit. The technology he knows about is hair plugs, right? Those shits, those look awesome. You know what I mean? I gotta hand it to my boy Elon on that one. Have you seen that one fucking picture where he looks like Nosferatu? He's just like... The man looks good. The plugs look good. I'll give him credit for that. But everything else he can suck my dick on.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel.
Yeah.
Like, so him buying Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this to make Twitter private and to make this the richest man in the world's plaything is disturbing, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly disturbing. I don't know how much Facebook is worth, but what stops Amazon or Jeff Bezos from buying it? Right? Like,
oh, please put us out of our misery, for fuck's sake. Like, he can't be worse than Mark Zuckerberg, right?
You say that, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, probably not, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but I think Musk's big issue is that the way he uses Twitter as it is.
Mm-hmm.
He uses it to like the joke that Stavros says, like, oh, please pump Doge, you know, like he does that. Like he quite literally does shit like that. And he does it so that he can financially benefit, and then he will tank this stuff. Look, we had talked offline about the idea of him buying Twitter when this was all coming up, and I thought it might be just a pump and dump kind of thing. He owned like 9% of it, and so I could see him like pumping up the idea that, oh, here comes Elon Musk, he's gonna buy it. It goes through the roof, and then he sells it, he makes a fuck ton of money, and then he never buys it at all, right? So, it's definitely possible. But he turns out that he decided he wanted to buy it for freedom of speech. You buying that bullshit?
No, not at all. And here's the problem. So like everyone's like the fear, and it's a fair fear, is that all of a sudden, like, he's going to open the floodgates, right? Like, he's going to let all these people that were kicked off the platform for hate speech and promoting violence and stuff like that, including the ex-president, back on the platform, because his idea of free speech is the fucking third graders' definition of free speech. Like, it's the one where it's like, yeah, everyone should get to say whatever they want, consequences be damned, and all that stuff.
Yep.
And sure, you can do that, but we don't have to use the platform either. And like, if you like, one of the reasons that the fucking, besides the fact that they were half-baked ideas, that like your Gavs and your Parlors and your Truth Socials have never fucking taken off, is because they're fucking cesspools, and no right-thinking individual is going to wander into that fucking pond and splash around in there. So like, if you turn Twitter into a fucking, conservative cesspool, or even just a cesspool where people with those ideas are allowed to reign, unimpeded, regular people like you and I, and, a lot of other people aren't gonna fucking be there. Like, we're just gonna leave and go do something else, or wait for the next, the next legitimate competitor to Twitter to fucking rise up and glom onto that. Like, we don't have to use the service. Like, it's not like we're obligated to.
Right. Like there's a story, we're not going to talk about it, but like there was a story that we were considering for Bang On or Bullshit, where it was kind of a funny story from like BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
And they're basically like, look, we all deserve this, this platform is like the hell app. Like, we're all going to stay on there and all this other stuff. We deserve what we're getting. And like, I laughed, but at the same time, I'm like, no, I'm not going to stay on there if it becomes like that. Like, if it becomes Truth Social or Parler or whatever, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out. I'm not going to delete my account, because we use that for the shows and stuff like that, but I'm not going to use it, just like Facebook. We have a Facebook account. We have Facebook pages. That shit is automated, dude. Like, I never post, like, the only thing you get is when we create new shows and stuff like that. All of that shit I do through another app. I don't ever log into that, ever. Like, that's what Twitter will be. That's how I send out like new show episode, things now, right? But I do go on and tweet regular shit. But if it gets like that, that shit will go the way of the dodo for me. It doesn't like the only social media app that I like to use, like 100% like to use, is Discord. Because I get to choose the places I am. I don't have to talk to a bunch of fucking public Discords. I'm not forced to do any of that. I'm not forced to have conversation with people I don't want to, or people jumping into my conversations I'm not talking to. None of that. It's people I'm around, like-minded people who I enjoy talking to and can. Yep. So it's fine, right? So it's that to me works a lot better. But I'll use Twitter until I find it deplorable, and then I'm out. I don't feel like, oh, I can't live without it. No, I don't feel that way at all.
Really, what Jay's beating around the bushes. He already has a fucking hell site that he can escape to if he just wants to have fun teeing off on people for a little bit. We all know you use Reddit for that. You just like to go on the Reddit and fuck around.
The funny thing is I don't argue on Reddit. But I read things on Reddit that really piss me off. I'm more likely to argue about movie things on Reddit than I am about politics, ironically. But not even argue. I'll disagree with someone about something. But politics, I rarely will comment. I just read it and I'm like, that's okay. That's the dumbest shit I've heard today. Cool. But yeah, I just don't feel the need. I don't feel obligated. I left Facebook, I guess it's been probably a year now, for the most part, and I don't regret it. Every time there's news out, I'm like, that works.
Do you know what the news of Elon Musk buying Twitter finally compelled me to do?
What's that?
Download TikTok. Because I was honestly half of what I used Twitter for was to see the viral TikToks that went out and shit like that, and because I just didn't want to use the app. And then when I heard this, I was like, well, let me see if I can start weaning myself off of Twitter just in case.
Yeah, TikTok
I need to pull the plug.
Some of TikTok is pretty good. A lot of it is garbage. It just all depends on what zone you get in, right? Yep. The political TikTok kind of stuff that I find myself kind of falling into, some of it's pretty good. Some people, there's a couple guys I ended up following. I saw stuff on TikTok and they also have Instagram accounts. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll add them or whatever. And they post stuff that I think are pretty relevant, intelligent conversations, or, commentary. But I don't need Twitter. I don't. So if Elon Musk decides that it's good, much like Facebook, they didn't moderate it well, and they let it become a hell site. No, I'm done. Thanks. The second a bunch of fucking dumb QAnon geriatrics start taking over that app, you can have it. It's fine. Look, you guys can all scream at each other. I don't give a shit. You're all miserable cunts anyway, so what do I care? I just
well, and again, everyone points out oh, Yahoo bought Tumblr for $1 billion, and then they had to sell it for $3 million when it was all said and done. That's
are you
that
serious?
Shit can happen. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize it was for $3 million.
My figures might be off, but they took a considerable loss on Tumblr.
Social media is not easy, man.
No, it's not easy. And again, it's a balancing act. And one of the things that one of the reasons people are upset is because Twitter, for as much grief as it gets, and deservedly so, has become a lot better in the past year. And maybe that's just because it's contrasted with Facebook, which is still a fucking, the wild fucking west in terms of how it's moderated compared to Twitter. But Twitter has done a pretty decent job at stamping out people from the platform that should not be on there, that don't need, that shouldn't have that platform to fucking spout off with people.
Right.
So if Elon Musk is smart and he actually wants to run that business successfully, he'll consider that stuff.
No, that's not what's going to happen. I think we all know what's going to happen. Trump's going to declare, or seem like he's going to declare, that he's running for president, and he will put him back on that platform. Yep. There's a solid part of me that says, if Trump is allowed back on the platform, I'm done. Because I know if he gets back on, it's a lot. For people who use Twitter regularly, Twitter changed considerably when Trump left. Yep. It did. It was oh, it's kind of fun again. It wasn't just MAGA craziness all the time. What the fuck, man? Even in regular shit I'm reading that has not like movie shit, there'd be like comments like MAGA. I'm like, all right, this is too much. But when he got booted, a lot of those people, they bailed for Parler and Truth Social and whatever other bullshit didn't work. They all went to those things. So it cleared out a bit, and it became fun again and interesting again. But no, if he comes back, that's it. I'm out. I think there's like a 70% chance I'm done with that.
Well, he's like the bellwether, right? Like he's kind of the measuring stick by which like Musk will what he's going to do, and of course he's going to let him back on, because why the fuck wouldn't he? Because that would be a way to get people talking. Like if for no other reason he would do it, just for the buzz.
Right, and that's Twitter. Twitter is influential, and probably the most influential social media site because of how fast it is and the buzz. Right, somebody can tweet 280 characters, say some wild shit, it goes super viral, and then everybody's talking about it. Facebook, things they can go viral, but it's like a long written paragraph, and then people are like, all right, let me read it. You can read a tweet in 4 seconds, right? Like, so it can get up and get around the world much quicker. And you can hit people directly, right? Like Trump could be like, at Joe Biden, fucking president, suck my dick, like day one, and be like, what the fuck? Like everyone would be talking about it. They'd be going crazy, right? And I'm sure he would fucking do shit like that. Like maybe not suck my dick, but like it would get around the world so fast. Oh my God,
could you imagine? He would start fucking tweeting at the president, the POTUS account.
100%.
Oh my God. 100%.
Now Trump says, I can't believe people believe him. Trump says he's never going back on Twitter. I'm like,
yeah, because it's in his financial interest to say that. Yeah, he's trying to build a social media company.
For now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let Elon be like, Trump, maybe you can come back. Like he'd be like, hell yeah, dude. He'd be in that shit. He'd be on it.
Yeah.
I do think if you're gonna let Trump back, like I think you should. I think they should have, when Elon Musk came up and was like, I'm going to buy Twitter, they should have immediately scrubbed all data from Trump's account. You know what I mean? Just like, boom, all accounts, all like nothing is recoverable in that account. It is toast. Although I'm sure they'd be like, they get a backup, but like they should have toasted it. Toast everything. Like, no, he's gone.
Well, and the right does see an opportunity. So like there was this fucking stunt that Tucker Carlson's social media team performed. So like 12 hours after the day after the Elon announcement, the Tucker Carlson account put out like a post that says like, and we're back and that kind of thing. So what happened is that I don't even know how many months ago, it was a long time ago, Carlson got banned, or got a temporary ban from Twitter for some anti-trans bullshit that he tweeted out. And he just got banned for half a day and was told to take down the post that caused the ban to happen. And once the post was taken down, they were able to post again, but they just didn't. So basically he made it seem like that he was banned this entire time, and just merely the news of Elon coming in to save the day brings back Tucker Carlson, like somehow lists this imaginary shadow ban from his account that he's able to start tweeting again. So like
Fox News did that. Fox News never didn't tweet for. I mean, I don't know that they're tweeting now. Like they just stopped too.
There was I think Twitter said that someone noticed that after the Musk announcement, like Katy Perry, for example, lost I want to say like 200,000 followers.
I heard about
like
this,
shortly thereafter. And Marjorie Taylor Greene gained 40,000 followers, and people asked Twitter, they're like, "Is this legit?" They're like, "Yeah, like these aren't like bot scrubs or anything like that."
Bullshit.
Like, this is,
bullshit. I'm not buying it, because there was some other conservative that gained like 96,000. I think it was Ron DeSantis gained 96,000 subscribers or followers in a day. Bullshit, dude. Bullshit. That's not true. They're bots. Like,
think so?
Fuck, dude. Twitter is almost all bots. Like, it is insane. Like, there was, that's one of the things Musk came out and said. It was like, I'm going to get rid of the bots. Well, good. I mean, maybe that's the one thing you'll do that's worth a damn. Guess what? Republicans are going to be fucking pissed if you actually get rid of real bots that are under them. Because there's no way, dude. There's no way 40,000 people suddenly are all on Twitter now for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not buying that. No. For Ron DeSantis, almost 100,000 people in a day? No.
I will say this about him. The one saving grace is that he doesn't seem like a guy that's going to be kowtowed by any politician.
No, he's
like
too
he
rich.
like he lives in this like faux like libertarian like that kind of ideal bullshit. So I don't think that he would be brought to heel by Republicans. Like if they started bitching about like, oh, like Elon shadow banning us and this that, or the other thing, he'd be like, I go fuck yourself. Like, I don't
all the money in the world, you know.
Stop talking. Yeah,
like it's very dangerous to have the richest man in the world have this kind of power. It's incredibly dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. But all right, like we'll see. I feel like that's a mistake, but okay. Speaking of mistakes, Joseph Robinette Biden tells Congressional Hispanic Caucus he's looking at forgiving some federal student loan debt, or all, is another report that I read from Business Insider. Biden is looking at different options to forgive an unspecified but substantial amount of federal student loan debt, a move that would thrill some of its most loyal supporters and financially strapped students nationwide, but is a departure from campaign pledges to provide limited relief. Yeah, here's the thing. This is one campaign promise you can break. You are okay to break, dude. No one is going to be like, how dare you? Like, I mean, Republicans will.
I have a very nuanced take on this. Allow me to take a sip of my tea real quick. Get the throat warmed up a little bit just to loosen up the larynx a tad. Dude, I told you.
There you go.
Like, come on. Like this is the most predictable thing ever, right?
Yeah, like you gotta wait until gotta wait until the end. You gotta wait till the end.
Yeah, till it actually will stand a chance of delivering you votes. It's not like he's made people make payments before. Like you could just keep kicking that can down the road with extending the moratorium, and then like drop the hammer when it's like, oh, by the way, do you like having your loans forgiven? Make sure you go vote for Democrats, then, baby. Come on, let's go. Let's make this happen.
Welcome. All right, so the question is...
You want to see more cool stuff like this? Like maybe Build Back Better and things of that nature? Then maybe you should put more Democrats in the Senate, just saying.
So, I think this is great. I don't think it... Like, I'll go totally positive first. And then I'll be a negative uber liberal prick about it. I think that this is great news. I hope that he nails the timing. Like, don't do it tomorrow. Like, don't. You got to get, when you got to do it? You got to do it like 3 weeks out. No. 3 weeks out, man.
I think you can do it a little earlier because, again, now you're daring someone to sue you and you're daring Republican SCOTUS to be like, no, we're not letting you do this.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely coming, right? Like, whenever that happens, that's definitely coming. My fear is that you don't want that fight, like, because that fight comes in, dude, the second he's like, this is what's happening, that fight will actually come before he does it, right? The second the news, like, I'm surprised the fight hasn't already started just with the signaling of this story, right? And several like it. You don't want that fight to start because once that fight starts, if it starts too early, people are going to think about the fight. They're not going to think about what he did. You know what I mean? Because that's just how the news works. They'll be like, he went to the SCOTUS, and it'll be all about the fight. It will never be about the actual act that got you to the fight because the news is not very good about telling the whole story. They're about telling the salacious part of the story. Yeah. I say you do it like 3 weeks out, man. I
would be down for that too.
Like, I'd be down for that. Like when right before people start early voting, whenever that is, however many weeks out from that, like a week before early voting starts, it's like boom. And of course, the Republicans' number one line is going to be they're trying to buy votes. So what, motherfucker? Like, and
like,
George Bush sent $600 checks to people's houses. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
And I bought a fucking set of golf clubs. Still own them.
Yeah, there you go. See, you got your George Bush, you got your Bush golf clubs. You understand?
My Bush golf clubs. You better believe it.
A week or two out from when early voting starts, that's when you drop that hammer on that. All right, let me pretend to be like an uber left asshole. Why wasn't this already done? And why hasn't he legalized weed yet? Normal me answering that. I just told you because you fuckers don't pay attention to anything. So if something happens that happened a month ago, you will already forget about it.
Better yet, Jay. Why? So it's it's one thing to forgive student loan debt. Why isn't he paying people that went to college just for going to college? Like, thank you for going to college. Here's some money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm behind that. Like that sounds awesome. I should get a paycheck, not a reduction from Joe Biden. The other thing is, like, I saw people immediately, not even go, oh, that's great. Immediately, well, he needs to legalize weed. Yo, we're not even talking about that. That's not even in the discussion of what this is.
Plus he can't. You can't. No, he can't legalize.
He could basically deschedule it, right? Like he could just move it into an area where you could have a federal decriminalization. Sure, but that again isn't nearly as impactful as getting rid of all federal student loans.
Well, because again, that would only decriminalize weed on the federal level anyway. Like, it has nothing to do with the fucking states, which people also don't understand. That again, we live in a federalist country. Like, you can't just feel like this one guy says this and everyone has to do it. Like, that's not really how that works. But okay. No.
So, like, there's that, and then there's also the whatever amount he does that's less than all, people will have a problem with, and that pisses me off. Like, like, if he says 10,000, I'm like, that's cool. Like, I feel like you could have gone higher than that, but I feel like anything like 30 and more, I think you got to just shut up and be like, yo, thank you. Like, like, dude, that's a significant amount of money.
It's a car.
It's a nice car.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a car. Like, you get a car for like $500. Like, it's a nice car, right? So the idea of wiping $30,000 of federal loans would be humongous. But I know to me, well, I have $70,000 and I still have 40 left. Yeah, you have 40 left. You had 70 last week, yesterday. Like,
well, and the give the guy, is honestly,
whenever this happens, just give the guy credit, man. Just give the guy credit.
And the biggest impact is for people who didn't finish school, who are still paying loans and stuff like that, who didn't get the benefit of the college education that they're paying for because they left early. And probably not working in a field that, would benefit them from staying in school. So being able to relieve that debt is also humongous. Yeah.
And I bet a lot of those people are in the $30,000 or less situation, right? I don't know, man. I think it could be huge. I think it could be deeply, deeply beneficial to people. And also I think it could be beneficial to Democrats. I don't know if it's enough to like stop what's coming for the Democrats in the midterms. Mm-hmm. I think that is incredibly optimistic. But again, it might be enough to drive some people to go, oh shit, like this guy's not fucking around. Like,
and I don't think it would swing a lot of votes. I think it might encourage some people who might not be as excited to come out and vote to actually go take care of it.
As far as I'm concerned, that's enough, because you got a lot of people who are very apathetic. But I'm gonna need people to give the guy credit if he pulls this off. Like, you got to just be like, yo, that's fucking huge. Like, it's a huge
but like your fiscal conservative, like, moderate voters are not going to be impressed by this because they're going to be like, well, how are we going to pay for it? And like, well, we've already paid for it. Like, we're just not going to get paid back for it. Like, we've already spent the money. Yeah. I don't think you understand how this works, but okay.
No. Oh, conservatives are going to be pissed. They're going to be super pissed. Well, why are we just giving away, why are these people getting off easy without having to pay back? Back in my day, I had to walk up the hill, up a hill both ways.
Look, I'll tell you this: it's not going to cost $1.5 trillion, and as long as it comes in less than $1.5 trillion, then you can go tell them to suck your dick, because they literally gave away $1.5 trillion to the richest people in the country.
$2.5 trillion.
Sorry,
that tax cut was $2.5 trillion. So we're fine on student loans. We're fine. And again, that was money already spent. Like, we gave that $2.5 trillion to rich people. We gave it to them. That's different. Yes. Far worse. The other side of this, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it, This doesn't fix anything. It helps people temporarily, right? I am fine with saying all federal student loans are forgiven in the wake of COVID and everything else. No problem. This is a massive crisis. We need to help people get back on their feet, get the economy rolling again. No worries. You have to fundamentally address the fact that these loans are generating this much debt to Americans, period. Like, use this as a time to fix that problem in the immediate, but you also need to sit back and talk about the federal loan restructuring or something. They should be interest only, right? Like something. You got to figure something out to keep that from happening again in 10 years where it builds back up to this insane amount. Like you have to fundamentally address that. So it's not enough to just make people feel good and help them. It's also about breaking or fixing the broken system by which got us here. Like if you don't do that, then you've done nothing. So you got to do both. That's really my only point there. So yeah, look, great, good, great, grand. 30 or more, I'm super happy with. 30 or more, I'm super happy with. Look, 20 or more, like what the fuck? It's still $20,000. But I think.
And by the way, this is coming from two guys who would not benefit at all from this being passed.
No, I wouldn't benefit at all.
Yeah.
So it's it's not
the right
like
thing to do.
Right. It's not like, oh, I got $40,000. Oh, help me, Mr. Biden, please. Like, no, like, no, I mean, that's great. But I have friends who have student loans. Like, I have family members who have student loans. It would help them tremendously.
Yeah.
If you just said, hey, man, no more federal student loans. Look, a lot of people have, other student loans and stuff like that, and they still got to deal with that. But to have the federal, like, that FAFSA, having that shit off your back, like, it's a big deal, man.
And again, you want to help pull the economy out of this inflation spiral. Feel like giving people paying student loans an extra $400, $500, $600 in their pocket every month probably will go a long way to helping pull the economy up.
Yep. You can have young people buying houses. You can have young people buying cars. They can actually, I mean, that's quite literally a car payment, right? Like $500 is a significant car payment. So, if you can get a nicer place or, start a family or, afford to get married.
Like you said, buy a house instead of rent an apartment, build equity like that, all that kind of shit. So.
Right. Start a business, like whatever. Right. Like, or, you got that money off your back because you want to like, that's from your bachelor's, but you don't want, you say, I got $30,000 and I'm working, but I don't want to double down on my debt and go to get my master's. So I'm waiting until I pay this down over a couple of years and I'll go get my master's. Well, that might clear up some space for somebody to be like, now I can pursue my master's. That means that's likely a higher paying job that they could get. That means a bigger house. That means, more money being spent into the economy. Putting money in the hands of people who actually spend it is what works to get an economy rolling. So yeah, I am definitely down for doing this. I just want them to make sure that at the same time, they are actually addressing the big sort of elephant in the room, which is you got to fix the system that's broken that got you here. So, but either way, man, like this is fucking excellent news. All right. So this week's episode of Bang On or Bullshit, this is actually a really good topic, but I would be remiss if I didn't intro it.
I was about to say, I thought you were going to hit us with the intro.
Come on, man. Definitely. There you go.
I feel like in some other life, like you were definitely like a morning drive time.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Which is really offensive, I have to say, Brad. Those guys are like all coke addicts, like all of them.
No shit.
Elliot in the morning. That guy's insane, right? Nobody's up at 4:30 that happy. Get out of here. This is ridiculous. You're definitely on drugs. All right. So the Bang On or Bullshit topic this week is an opinion piece in the New York Times by Ross Douthat. The title is, "What Does the Right Do When Big Business Turns Against Republicans?" This is all about Ron DeSantis going after, or two things. Like Ron DeSantis going after Disney and then Elon Musk going after and buying Twitter, which we're going to talk about Ron DeSantis a little bit more specifically about that topic because it just got really interesting today. Don't fuck with corporate lawyers, man. They get paid a lot of money for this. But this guy's piece is basically one, it's very well written, but his point is that back in 2011, and this is like, it's funny to read this because this is exactly how I heard about her too. Back in 2011, when Elizabeth Warren was preparing to run for U.S. Senate, she had a long riff making a case against a certain kind of idealized and Randian vision of the lonely heroic capitalist. In the video that went viral, she told an audience, quote, "There is nobody in this country who got rich on their own. Nobody. You built a factory out there. Good for you. But I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on the roads that the rest of us paid for. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless. But basically, you didn't build that. That's where that came from."
Yeah.
And then Obama also used that, and he used the line, you didn't build that," which the Republicans responded, "You did build that," right? And that was fucking stupid. I remember I got into an argument with this conservative guy that I know, and he was like, "That's not true. You know, I started my business." I was like, and I made this argument. I was like, dude, you benefit from society. Like, we educate and build a society, and you benefit off the backs of it. You went to a public college. Where do you think the money for that college came from? Like, it didn't spring up like fucking like an oasis in a desert. That's not how shit works. So all that being said, his point, he really kind of nails at the end, which is scrolling. It's the fucking New York Times, so it's long as fuck. But like his point is like, look, the Republican Party is, because they're fighting with this like sort of social change that's coming to corporate America, that has had corporate America siding very easily with liberal ideas like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be shitty to like LGBTQ people. Like, that seems reasonable, right? You know, Tim Apple is a gay man, right? Like, so those kind of things, you know, just are easy to deal with. But what he was basically saying is, there is, as he wrote it, there's a striking evolution that the right that once disdained and actually said we all built that account for business success is now inclined to adopt its own version of that case. And while I don't and he goes on about Elizabeth Warren. So basically, they've adopted this idea that you didn't build that towards businesses, right? DeSantis is saying, hey, you don't get this special cutout, Disney, because you're making all this money on the backs of Florida, right? Where before they were all about this like rugged individualism with capitalists, like, well, you know, Disney made it and they built that business all by themselves and they should be able to do what they want. So his premise is that the party isn't fundamentally changing, but they are finding themselves increasingly put into this situation because of like just the changing realities. Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that's largely on point?
I do. I think he's actually pretty bang on with his assessment of there. And the thing is, like, I feel like that Ross Douthat's coming at this. I don't think he's explicitly coming at it from the direction of, you know, liberal hypocrisy and getting upset about Republicans like shitting on Disney or trying to shit on Disney. Right. Because I don't really think that exists, honestly. Like, we weren't making fun of DeSantis for going after Disney because we're like, oh, you know, you must protect Disney. It's just like, no, like we're upset at the reason you're doing it. But if you're going to like force Disney to like lose special government status, like, you know, don't let me stand in your way. Like, I'm like, you fucking go for it. And that's the big difference, is that Warren's premise when she brought this idea to the forefront was not to just like, oh, like companies, let's just fuck with companies because, you know, they're conservative or, you know, they're capitalists or whatever. It was saying, no, like, you guys should be paying back. Like, you guys should be paying into the government your fair share. It's the line that she's been consistent with, since she's kind of sprung onto the scene, is that corporations should be paying their fair share. Whereas Republicans are doing it to be spiteful,
right?
Because companies are politically opposing them.
Yeah, that's it. Like it's just out of spite, and it's not a real political ideology. But I think, and he doesn't necessarily go into this, but I think it's a point to be made, which is they're an ever shrinking party, and I don't even necessarily mean in size. I mean in just like what's the terminology, like the terminology, the God of the gaps, right? Like, it's just, like hyper religious people are like, God's responsible for all this stuff, and then like science figures this out, and it's like God becomes smaller and smaller, right, in the eyes of non-believers. And I am only bringing that up from the idea of like, that's what's happening to them, is their bigotry was totally like acceptable and like reasonable in the eyes of most Americans, and that has shrunk, and they are slowly losing they're kind of like losing space, right, in the political discourse. Like, sure, everybody knows Republicans hate gay people, no shit, they're fucking dirtbags about it, but there are log cabin Republicans now, right? Like, there are cracks there, right? Like, they can come out and say those fucking deranged fucking bullshit things, but like, you still have gay folks that are card-carrying members of your team. So they have already infiltrated your universe, right? So this clean Christian bubble where everything is perfect and everyone is straight and it's all fucking 1950s, that already no longer exists, right? You've got now, like, I mean, it's just kind of Caitlyn Jenner, but like, you now have trans people who are conservative, right? That bubble gets a little bit smaller, that it has more cracks in it, right? Like, that pure ideology sort of mindset, it doesn't work anymore. And it is just like the God of the gaps, is you get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you're forced into a corner as you're trying to like harden your resolve. Like, no, none of this is true. It's not true. No, it is true. Like, you can just look at where you started to where you are now, and they're shrinking. Yeah. And so they're now battling against the thing that they love the most, which is corporate America, which is wild to watch.
Well, and I guess because they thought that like corporate America was always going to be on their side, because they're like, look, we're financially benefiting them, not realizing that financial benefit from the government is one thing, but also being a successful company is another thing. And you can't be a successful company when the consumer base for your goods is shifting, a bigger slice of that pie is shifting towards younger people and people that are coming up and people that are of a different mindset. So like you said, whereas 40 years ago, like Disney could have been a pretty conservative company from their views, no problem, because that's the way the country was. Well, the country's not that way anymore. If Disney wants to be a successful company and attract people from, attract millennials and attract, Gen Yers that's the same thing, attract Gen Zers and things of that nature to their parks, then they too have to be more outwardly supportive of causes that they believe in. And they're, Disney's the one company because this is the example, but there's a slew of companies that fucking do this shit. Like crazy.
Of course. So it's, look, I mean, every Pride Month, it's like, you know what's gayer than Pride Month? This gay hammer you can buy at Home Depot, right? Like they just put this shit on anything.
But it's also like Nike with Colin Kaepernick, and when advertisers pull their stuff off of Fox News and things of that nature. Like there's a whole bunch of like micro moves that you see in directions like this that all add up to this kind of stuff, because they realize like, hey, like if we don't do this, like we're gonna piss people off. Like Toyota keeps fucking up because like Toyota keeps like being like, oh, we're not going to donate to Republicans anymore. And then they just start doing it on the sly, like once a couple months pass by, and like people call them out for that shit. And I don't know if it's having an appreciable effect on their market share, because I think that all car companies are selling like pretty much everything they're producing right now, just because of the way the industry is at the moment. But I can tell you that I'm seeing them like be fucking shady and sly like that, I'm much less inclined to ever want to buy a Toyota. Right. Like, there are other people that are like me that'll look at that kind of stuff as well. So,
well, as they say, Brad, don't push your Toyota-thon. My household is a happy Honda days. Fuck those guys. But it's, just like this idea of corporate America now being the enemy of the Republican Party is wild.
Yeah.
Like, okay, man. Like, I feel like maybe you got to take a different approach, because if you lose big business and big business is all about donating to liberal candidates, you're fucked. You're fucked because you don't have enough. Your people don't donate to you directly enough.
I do wonder, though, how much of this gamble is the fact that Republicans don't think that big business will ever truly leave them, because they're still the ones that are driving their financial interest in government.
That's a decent gamble. It's a decent gamble.
Yeah.
It all depends, right? Like, it depends on whether or not sort of more liberal or Democrat groups, if they go real hard after like corporate like malfeasance and like, corporate cutouts and things like that. If they really do, like if you got an Elizabeth Warren type, like this business is like, we hate Republicans, but like, let's give them money anyway. Right? Like people are kicking the shit out of us. Like we're not for that. But ultimately they would do better. They might make slightly less money, but they do better in an environment where they were actually controlled properly. They would do better. Like they would, because they wouldn't get smashed every couple of years with some crazy multi-billion-dollar lawsuit because you're selling cigarettes to kids. Like if you were just like, yeah, you can't do that.
Or not only that, like you wouldn't have to put yourself in dumb situations where like all the airlines were giving out stock buybacks to everybody, and then all of a sudden a fucking pandemic hits and they're like, oh fuck, now we need money again. Like if you're more tightly regulated, it'll prevent you from making the dumb decisions like that will lead you to trouble down the road. But of course they don't see it that way. Like they
are 5 minutes in front of their of their face. They always like, how do we make more money? Right. Yeah. Like I saw, speaking of TikTok earlier, I saw this guy, he was like doing a skit where he was like playing both characters, and he was playing like an executive at Aetna, like versus like someone who just worked there. And the executive's like, we need to institute prior authorization for cataract surgery. And he was like, 4 million people get cataract surgery every year. That's insane. Like, that's evil. He's like, and the guy's like, well, if we keep denying these people, like we'll just keep denying them and denying them and denying them. And he was like, well, what if we deny someone who's like 80 and they can't see and they fall down the stairs and break their hip? Then we're paying for cataract surgery and hip surgery. And the executive's like, that's a good point. You're right. I hadn't thought about that. We need prior authorization for hip surgeries as well. It's like, God damn it. It's like, can we just not be evil for one day? He's like, yeah, but I don't know if you saw the bottom line. We made only $8 billion in profit last year. I was like, fair enough. But I just thought that was true. I was like, yeah, that's a corporate meeting at Aetna. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
like, absolutely.
There is no such thing as fucking too much money when you're a corporation,
or some rich douchebag buying social media.
That's true.
So you never can tell. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good opinion article. So it's obviously linked in the docket on the show notes. So check that out. Like, go take a read of that. Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.